it's my pleasure to open today's program of many discussions and artist talks. I would like to invite for stage Mrs. Director of the National Gallery, Alicia Knast. She will open the first block, which is held by SUMO Prague.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Welcome in the National Gallery. We are really honored to have you here. We strive on really juxtaposing old art and contemporary art. We live on it. We are constantly inspired by it. In opposition to many other countries where sometimes contemporary art is divided from the old art and old masters, we do quite the opposite. We feel that there is one art. And because of that, I think this particular venue, which is a kind of chef-d'oeuvre of modernism, is something which is excellent venue to host you. I wish you really excellent discussions. I think we always keep saying that the art discussion about art, the way we perform, the way we moderate, the way we animate, is something we do, and we say that we have to do more. But this challenge is never ending, and since National Gallery feels very much kind of not only obliged, but actually challenged by contemporary time, I would like you to say that one topic which I know is also close to the organizers of the Prague Art Week, which is solidarity, is something we really analyze, we ask ourselves, and mostly probably try to understand first ourselves what it today means. I would like to invite you for our events, for our institution. There is plenty to see. Permanent exhibitions, of course, a contemporary exhibition after 1939-45, which shows you the contemporary art in Czechoslovak and Czech Republic. It's done by young curators, which is not the ageism from my side, but it means that really vision for it is something you would not find anywhere else. Those art authors did not live in communist time, therefore their interpretation of that time is really interesting, and really opens a new chapter in interpreting this period of art. Apart from that, we of course celebrate today a photograph festival, so I'm very happy that we can join this moderate discussion about the art, together with the art festival, which is challenging our sort of position in this technological digital world, and it look at the first sight, very conservative theme as aquarelle. But when you go there, you will see that in 19th century, there are places where they challenge themselves in this medium of aquarelle, the same way we do today with digital world. So you are more than welcome. Enjoy your stay and have an excellent, heated, inspirational discussions. And thank you for giving me the floor.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Thank you, and thanks to the National Gallery for being our main partner. We are very appreciated. And now let me pass the word to the Jen Kratochvil and Tjasa Pogačar as our moderators of first block, Art Reflection.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much, Alicia, for the beautiful introduction. Enjoy the press conference. Good luck over there. Thanks so much, Lenka. The Art Week, the National Gallery, all the partners, and also mainly our guests for this morning's first discussion. It's kind of fun that we meet in this particular monumental institutional space for a discussion about, let's say, the rather ground floor and the mycelium of the local art scene and of the regional art scenes. That's why we also have our guests. I think it would be great if you actually join us already up here. We are joined by representatives of three various art scenes. Camille Hunt, one of the co-founder and co-directors of Hunt Kastner, Francis Ruyter, artist and organizer, community organizer on the Viennese art scene, and Bori Szalai, a director of Trafo in Budapest. Tjasa, how should we start?
I think now you already introduced everyone. I think Camille is missing from this title, so please keep that in mind. But I think we can just start with the questions now. You
We could just
introduced
sit down,
everyone
right?
so nicely.
Good morning.
Good
Once
morning.
again.
So maybe because this debate is also organized in the context of SUMO, which is an event of a gallery cooperation that is run by an alliance of galleries and off spaces in Prague. Maybe we can start actually with Camille to just somehow highlight or kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what SUMO is, when it started, and also from the perspective of the gallery, of your gallery, what was the initial motivation for establishing such an event, but also what has been your main motivation for participating during all these years?
Yes. So SUMO started quite a few years ago. I'm not actually even sure how many. And it was under a different name, and it was called Friend of a Friend. And we were trying to a little bit, replicate what's in some other countries, these sort of gallery cooperative projects, which was called Friend of a Friend in Poland, it's called Condo, I think in the States, maybe in London also. So it's a group of galleries who get together and have exhibitions and a program and invite guests from abroad. In those cases, it was private galleries, so like our gallery, Hunt Kastner. We decided, because there aren't so many private commercial galleries in Prague, to extend that to non-profit spaces and off spaces. And that also comes with some challenges, because, it's a wonderful thing that, to extend the group. But I think, it comes with its own challenges, because obviously we have somewhat different objectives, different resources, and so it has come with some challenges. But it's been nice to show solidarity and because it's important for us, the off spaces and the nonprofit spaces. We're very we follow what they do, and it's very important for the private scene as well, because they obviously show younger artists, up and coming artists, and so we want to show this sort of spirit of solidarity, not just with our colleagues in the private sector, but also in the nonprofit sector. So we decided to do this event, SUMO, where we open at the same time, and we have guests from abroad, and we we introduce them to the scene, and have collateral events. So that's.
Thanks so much for the intro of the whole SUMO situation. I think it's quite important maybe to mention a specific position of private sector or like private galleries on the art scene in Prague, because it is not, in my opinion, very conventional, I would say. You don't really operate just as dealers or sellers. You really create quite formative content within the walls of your gallery and also outside of it. You recently, actually a couple of years already ago, inaugurated this project room in your gallery. So I think there is much more, or like broader ambition than to be just, as was said, a dealer of contemporary art. So maybe this would be just a little clarification or like explanation to understand the context of the scene, if you want to add something to it.
No, I think you're right. I mean, our program isn't focused on commercial objectives. I would say some people don't. We are a commercial gallery. We don't hide the fact, and we're very proud of it. But yeah, as I say, the program isn't just the commercial objectives aren't our primary concern in terms of exhibition at the gallery. And so maybe we find ourselves maybe something in between a commercial gallery and I wouldn't say incubator, but yeah, the project room is for some younger positions, you know. So yeah, so maybe we fill a bit of a gap, I don't know, on the scene, because there are few, as I said, there are few commercial galleries, but there maybe are too few galleries just overall. So maybe we're trying to do both. Yeah.
So maybe now, Bori and Francis, you can speak about the context you're coming from. So I guess every art scene has its local specifics, and yeah, it would be nice to hear what motivates cooperations on the independent gallery scenes in Vienna and Budapest, given the different cultural, political climate in Austria and Hungary.
Yeah, Vienna is a very vibrant art scene, and we have very good funding in general. And I'm here sort of in relation to my work with the Independent Space Index Festival and Network. And this started in 2017 as a kind of solidarity network, and there were kind of three things going on at that time, I would say, that prompted it. One being a lot of artists talking about fair pay and this sort of thing. Two was an exhibition at the Kunsthalle, which I can't remember, and there was a kind of conference where a lot of young spaces were invited to participate. And three was a kind of right-wing government came into power, and the funding was late. And some bit of language in the government program that they announced sounded a bit threatening. So these spaces who met each other at this kind of conference, I mean, some of them knew each other, they started talking, and they were like, wow, 12 spaces, that's really a lot. And then and people started saying, well, but there's also this space, and this space, and this space, and this space. And somebody amongst this group decided to make a list, and it was quite a lot. And what also happened, we started meeting monthly. At the time I didn't have a space, but I'm very involved in these things, so I was joining as a kind of, I don't know, I just invited myself, I would say. And yeah, currently, by the way, there are 90 spaces listed. Some of them are, in fact, thinking of themselves as commercial galleries or would like to be. Vienna has a long history of the commercial galleries coming from the independent scene. In fact, the ones that you know now kind of reinvented themselves at one point as alternative spaces. They had a category called Informationsgalerie, and these were the spaces that were focused on international contemporary art, and there was a funding that supported this, which eventually became the Gallery Förderung, they call it. It's a fund that the museums can use to purchase artworks from mostly those same galleries, I would say. And shortly after, so the people from these spaces got together to write a letter about this funding situation, because they were trying to decide if they can keep paying the rent on this space. And we decided to meet once a month. It became a Stammtisch, which still happens to this day, once a month. And the festival also sort of came out of it. The first years it was, okay, do something within these 3 days, and it was very complicated because as a viewer it was very hard to find because, wait, I have to be here at this time and here at this time. And for this festival now been going 7 years. Of course, COVID adjusted it, I would say. And the format now is really simply open house days. So there's 3 days with open house, and then any event that's happening during this time can also be listed. It's completely voluntary, and we've only asked for funding for 2 of the years, the 2 recent years, and that's when we recognized that it could no longer function on purely voluntary basis, because it was coming down to most of the people who started it have moved away from Vienna, and there's pretty much 1 or 2 people left from the original group who are doing all the work. So it was necessary to start putting things in place for it to have a kind of continuity. So I would say it's had some impact on how people look at Vienna, I think. So.
I would just quickly add, I completely forgot about the Kunsthalle show, which I think it was called How to Live Together or something of that sort. We were back then both, I think, part of the panels. It's quite interesting actually that we are meeting in this like large state institution. Maybe it's a bit of an inspiration, pity that the general director is not with us anymore, but it nicely shows how institutions can actually influence happenings on the scene. Yesterday I ran into one local artist who is now studying at Angewandte, and he was telling me that it's almost a running joke, the amount of spaces on the Viennese art scene, that there are so many that basically no one knows all of them anymore, and you can't even read through the whole independent art index. So that's a very specifically different situation than we have here, for instance. But I think it also it can also later on during the discussion open a question of let's say like mortality of these spaces, because each independent space always requires quite some amount of enthusiasm, even though the funding in Vienna is quite secured. But there is always a certain limit how long people can run these spaces. So maybe we can get back to that later. But now, Bori, can you please introduce us a bit to the Hungarian situation?
Yeah, the Hungarian situation is definitely very different from the Viennese. I'm involved in 2 projects, two projects which are very different. So I would like to kind of mention both, because maybe that would give a better overview also on the Hungarian context. So I'm the director of Trafo Gallery, which is Trafo House of Contemporary Arts. It's officially actually a theater, and as part of this institution, it's a bigger institution, there is also a non-profit gallery. And the whole institution belongs to the city municipality. So actually, I wouldn't say it's an independent space, as a label, I couldn't say that. But on the other hand, as the municipality of Budapest now is in opposition, actually it also has a quite unique situation, like politically. When you are talking about the Hungarian art scene, it's mostly about cultural politics, what you have to talk about, because you just cannot really avoid that. So therefore I think it's very important to mention that Trafo Gallery is part of an institution, as I said, which is a theater, which gives us a certain invisibility as a gallery, which is actually one of our strengths, I would say, or like a super unique and specific situation, like from a political aspect, that we are not really visible as the gallery because what decision makers care about in this respect is what the theater does. So it's a unique umbrella we are under. Therefore, it's a very good situation for us, because we can actually really do whatever we want to do in the gallery, which is also something very unique nowadays in Hungary. But the financial question, maybe, I don't know if we'll have time to talk about that, but this is something very important. So even though we can do whatever we want, as the topic of this talk is about international collaborations, actually one of the main reasons we started to focus more on international collaborations is actually that we just don't find, I wouldn't say any, but very minimal funding in Budapest as a non-profit gallery. So this is like one part of my life. And the other part is of Biennale Budapest, which I'm part of since 2015. It's a grassroots initiative in Budapest, and when I say grassroots, I really would like to state that what does it mean? So it means that a group of individual curators thought that it's very important in our political climate when institutions close or institutions are very much affected by political decisions, to prove to ourselves, but also to prove to the local art scene that it is possible to do something outside of state infrastructure. So one of the important guidelines of how Biennale Budapest works is actually not to accept any state money, which is extremely hard in Hungary. Not to expect, but accept, but to actually function without state funding. And also, so Off Biennale is basically an art biennial done by enthusiastic individuals who organize different art-related events, exhibitions and public events and so on in spaces of Budapest which are not part of the art scene, let's say, so not in galleries, not in museums, but in kind of off spaces. So therefore, that is financially more independent for sure from the state funds, not from other funds. So that's something very important if we are talking about collaboration, because that is actually like the main aim is to really create collaborations within Hungary, within Budapest, within the art scene, and to create new situations, new exhibitions, new artworks, if possible, for local artists.
I want to add something about Hungary. Last year we invited the creators of this Hey Index, which is an index of Hungarian spaces that are sort of, it was inspired by the Independent Space Index Festival. And this became a sort of ongoing, it was them and some people who organized a takeover space in Lausanne called Etet Dilu last September. And the main organizers of the Berlin Project Space Festival. It was a really nice talk. We heard a lot about the Hungarian scene and some of these topics. And by the way, Barnabas then helped us with the index website afterwards. So there is some exchange going with us.
Now you all, in a way, spoke about a certain idea, like different ideas of independence. So like being independent either from the government funding and like politics, or just bringing together independent art spaces to connect and maybe create a better visibility for them. And then on the other hand, also kind of feeling certain lacks of the system. So I was wondering if these cooperative projects, which vary in nature, from local scene to local scene, can, besides just sharing of the resources and publics and visibility, open also some other possibilities. For example, you were mentioning now the political context, and can these kind of alliances present certain possible basis for political organizing or active resistance towards certain, difficult production or cultural political conditions in which these galleries find themselves in?
I don't want to sound pessimistic or negative. But this question, like you asked about the resistance. To be honest, I don't believe anymore in the possibility of changing things. I mean, it sounds very bad, I know, but we did really, I mean, like politically, from the aspect of the art scene, I mean. So I don't think that anything could happen, that the art scene stand up for a cause and it will change anything, because we did try and it didn't succeed. But I truly believe in the importance that people get together, put all their energy, and create valuable, good projects, art projects together, and do it without any support, any infrastructure, anything. That has a big strength, I think. So, yes and no. And the other question, like this answer was more about the Off Biennale, but about Trafo Gallery. How I see it, I mean, so how I would like to see it, that Trafo Gallery is not only a gallery in Budapest, in Hungary, but I rather want to see it as a gallery of the Central Eastern European region. I would like to position it there, and to be able to achieve that, or like kind of maintain that, you really need such international collaborations, because otherwise it's just not happening. So I'm very much counting on such collaborations, and by collaborations I mean institutional but also personal collaborations with artists and curators and galleries and institutions. So I think that that's absolutely crucial to not to be an isolated little island.
I mean, from all your presentations or introductions to complex issues of each individual art scene, it seems that we are really having on this stage like three very specific stories meeting. A story of political oppression, story of relative freedom and quite good funding despite right-leaning government in power in Austria, and then the story of the local art scene, which is always somehow oscillating in between various positions, and for me it's probably hardest talking about it being from here, but maybe since we are meeting in a framework of this whole gallery collaboration festival, this SUMO, maybe we can go back to it in a continuation of what Bori was saying about possibilities of cross-institutional and cross-hierarchical collaborations. Maybe also in regards to what was said about the role of Kunsthalle Wien in establishing or somehow giving one of the impulses to start the Independent Art Index. Camille, can you maybe, do you think there is can you speak about positive outcomes of the last couple of years of SUMO? Like, we know that it started in much larger scale and now it slightly shrinked for obvious reasons of all the budget cuts after the pandemic.
And some of the galleries have closed.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to get back to a point that Bori was saying, so sort of position Trafo more like a regional gallery rather than a national, which, you know, something we've been discussing at the gallery is maybe focusing more on building these regional networks, not traveling so far abroad, whether art fairs or whatever, and so to, you know, maybe to emphasize this, like build, you know, whether Austria, Hungary, I mean, we've already, you know, done that somewhat, but to maybe build on that more to, focus on that, on the region, rather than, whatever, trying to be in New York or London or whatever. So I think that's a good way to sort of approach that. In terms of positive outcomes from this, from SUMO, there's always going to be some new encounters, and as I say, has been kind of challenging because there are actually less spaces rather than more, and and also different the participants. There's a really uneven contribution. I mean, some of it comes from, I think partly it comes from their own resources, manpower. A lot of the off spaces, obviously, people who run them have to do other things, so they don't have the energy or the to maybe contribute as much as we would like them to. But I think there's always going to be some positive outcomes, whether we would like it to be even stronger. I mean, so SUMO, it's kind of, there's a lot of names being, there's Prague Art Week, there's SUMO, but the SUMO is an initiative of, I'm going to give you another name, Art Galleries Association of of Contemporary Art Galleries. And this association is supposed to, it's some private galleries and some nonprofits, and it's to, advance our common interests. So this project, SUMO and the collective exhibition and of the galleries participating is one of the activities of this alliance of contemporary galleries. Others would be, we started working on a code of ethics for the galleries, just to be more transparent and maybe, lobbying for some tax breaks, I don't know, these kind of things. But I would say there have been definitely some good outcomes in terms of contacts and generally, this idea that we're not in competition, but we all, support each other, whether we come from the, some more the private sector or the independent. I mean, that we should see each other still as colleagues, and that we can help each other out in that way. So.
Yeah, that's thank you for. It's an important point. That's where my question was also aiming at. That this kind of political organizing doesn't need to be like an active political resistance in terms of like some huge gestures, but also just, as you said, like trying to find a code of ethics for the galleries that are participating, or lobbying for certain different smaller interventions in the cultural politics, so that could benefit the scene as a whole and so on. Right. I think that's something that I imagine this kind of gallery cooperations can offer. Maybe Francis, you can add something to that in terms of, you mentioned also that independent space index kind of arose also from certain questions regarding artist pay and so on. So today, for example, does it still have this kind of potential besides the creation of content that is aimed at audiences?
The way the discussion played out at the Stammtisch, this like monthly meeting, we were asking at some point, what should the index be? There's a lot of projection on us, what people want us to be, and the fact of the matter is there are spaces that actually really, there was a discussion, should we even have a website for some spaces? This is too institutionalizing. What we really decided is that we have plenty of organizations in Vienna that offer political representation for all the aspects covered across everybody, despite their, no matter what their goal or reason for doing the space. We have an interest group for culture that is is about the, organizing maybe these associations, and there's an interest group for, contemporary art, for visual arts, and there's like Bildrecht, there's a image rights society, and we decided to really keep it as a solidarity and visibility network. And we decided that as we start to put, like the Independent Space Index Association was just formed this year to manage funding for the festival, and we've decided to keep the festival as a separate entity from the network of the same name. So the network exists without any central organization. It's really just about this solidarity network, and of course the visibility itself brings really a lot. I don't know, I don't want to get too into it because I feel like I'm going to just talk forever, but it's a good starting point, I think. So.
But maybe now you mentioned, obviously visibility and the PR benefits of creating an event together that brings attention to all the actors. It's like this is kind of an obvious plus. But maybe we can now speak also a bit of the downsides or like pitfalls of such cooperations.
I actually do have one thing to add to the visibility thing, which to me does have a kind of political effect. These independent spaces are usually seen as a very hyper-local situation, but in fact, what's happening with the index is it's actually showing that Vienna is an incredibly international scene. If you look at the exhibition at the Belvedere 21 now, which is supposed to be about the Vienna scene, there's a kind of curated section of individual artists, and if you Google, which I did, trying to figure out the nationality of the participants, of 46 artists, only 19 of them, as far as I can tell, have Austrian citizenship. So Vienna's always had this image of being a very Viennese, very kind of local situation, but it's absolutely not. We're a hugely international scene, and if that's political, maybe that's something that, yeah. So I'm sorry to interrupt your question.
No,
it seemed important.
That was important. Does anyone, Bori, maybe you want to add something to this? Because you mentioned that visibility is actually, in your case, can also be dangerous.
Yeah, this is, as you said, this is like a positive part of it for sure. But we don't do it because of that. It's an extra, which is good. But you were asking about the pitfalls of such collaborations. So, in terms of with Trafo Gallery, I see two pitfalls of such international collaborations. There are surely different kind of international collaborations we tried and we are doing at the moment, but I would say that there are two different main ones. One is that a certain group of institutions gather and apply together for a fund and build up a longer term project together. The pitfall of those is that you just put enormous amount of energy, and if the application doesn't succeed, then you just basically lose all that time, and you just cannot continue, even though you did work out together with the colleagues, a network and a new project. So, for example, we tried several European funds in the last years, and with almost succeeding but never succeeding. So this is a pitfall to kind of, you just don't succeed, and then you just cannot continue with those great partners and with the great project that you worked out theoretically, imaginatively. And the other thing is those collaborations, I think, which are not actually based on a fund or an application, but actually on, when with an institution or with a curator or with, with an art professional, there are certain, you want to work together, basically, to put it simple. And and actually I have very good experiences with that, also some bad ones, but mostly good ones. And I think that those collaborations work very well if there is like a good connection between the individuals. So it's for my, as far as I see, it's not so much about like the institutions, but it's rather about like how much you understand each other with the colleagues. And the pitfall with that is that if those people leave the institution, then it's just not continuing. These are the two which I see.
For me, pitfalls of these kind of collaborations are the creation of new exclusionary systems in the name of quality, for example. The kind of genericizing of things when you try to copy maybe what's appropriate in a different scene to your scene, instead of growing slowly from what you have on the ground. Because I really think these topics around independence is really something that is a constantly renegotiated thing, and that needs time to develop. And it needs to be constantly reinvented, reimagined. There's no one size fits all. For me, those are the main pitfalls.
Pitfalls of cooperation. Well, I guess I would say that maybe it seems the calculation is a lot of energy spent for the collective and not getting enough back for the individual player, and so that's maybe why, you know, it's difficult to keep the group together. You know, because again, you know, lack of resources, whatever, so they decide, okay, I'm not going, you know, somebody else will do that. You know, the group, there's a group, we need to do something. Oh, well, there are 10 people in the group, I've got other things to do, I can't. And so I think it disproportionately falls on certain people in the group. So that's, I guess, a pitfall and something that can be quite frustrating. So, you know, I think we just have to stress the, you know, this idea of solidarity. You might not get immediate result, or, but you're doing it, yeah, for the group, not, again, I mean, there will be some benefit to the individual players, but, yeah, and so I guess that would be the pitfall. Although, I mean, we continue with it, so, you know, we think there are more benefits than, but, yeah, it can be a bit frustrating when it's so, the contributions are so uneven from the, you know, the participants.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Now, I think we are slowly running towards the end of our hour, so I would like to extend also the platform to our audience. If there are any questions from your side, we would be very happy to give you space for those. No questions from the audience? So, yeah.
Thanks a lot. Maybe I would like to ask Bori about things which you said at the beginning. When you were talking about your Trafo gallery, that it's a part of a theater, and the government, it's more important, the theater is more important for the government than the gallery. Is it just in your case, or is it the same for the whole Hungary or whole Budapest, that theater and other culture segments are more important than the art, than visual art?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, definitely it's more, it's true in general as well. I would say so. In Hungary, theater has a very important position in a cultural field, and also literature. But visual arts and contemporary visual arts are not that much visible for like the general public, I would say. So yeah, I could say a lot of examples, but for example, it never really happens that, for example, in the television, for example, they invite someone to talk about an exhibition or a contemporary exhibition, but they always invite writers or theater makers. So yes, it's yeah, somehow contemporary art in general is rather unimportant compared to other fields of art in Hungary. But in Vienna, for example, you always see all these posters about, for example, like advertisement of exhibitions. This never happens, for example, in Hungary or barely. But also, yeah, it has like a long tradition. But yeah, definitely, it's true more general. But also in terms of Trafo House of Contemporary Art. It's also true because we are, as a non-profit gallery, we don't make any income compared to the theater, where they have to sell the tickets. So therefore, definitely there is a visible difference in energy and advertisement and everything. Because, you know, if it's free, it's not that valuable. I mean, it's considered that way a bit.
Any more questions from the public? And I would just like to remind you that we wanted to end on a positive note. So please, positively related or relatable questions. No? Okay.
I can add some positive thing to that, because
Thanks.
maybe I was like the most negative, and I'm sorry about that. But actually, I think it is really, really beautiful and energizing that also with the international collaborations in Trafo, but also with Off Biennale, that there are really a huge amount of people in every case of Off Biennale who are volunteering and put all their energy and work in it, because they really believe that this is something that it's important to do. So actually, that's like the whole strength. That's the only glue that holds Off Biennale, for example, together, as it has nothing actually behind. I mean, there is no infrastructure, there are no paid staff, there are nothing. So basically, it's like an imaginative thing. The only glue is that people believe in the importance of that, and it has results. So I think it is the most
That's
positive.
a beautiful, positive thing. Thanks so much, Bori. Are there some more positive final statements? Francis, how would you conclude our discussion?
I don't know. I think things like this discussion and, you know, comparing, you know, proximate scenes. We're so close and yet so far in so many ways. I think this is a really like key to finding better ways forward. And I want to thank you for the invitation from everybody. So.
I need to say something optimistic. No, I mean, like, I think that was like a really beautiful, very uplifting conclusion to the debate. I mean, I could ask some more questions. I mean, we didn't really address any concrete projects, because like these are platforms that operate on a yearly basis. You know, you organize a festival. There's like this SUMO gallery program of Biennale, like happens every 2 years. So all of them have their own topics, their own content. So would you maybe point out one that in the years of your, you know, being part of these platforms felt super precious or important, that had a certain impact either for the public, for the galleries, or for yourself, that was memorable and, yeah, is something that we can take forward in the future? It can be just like one show that you feel it was important for your gallery, or, you know, just like a small fragment that stuck to you after these years of collaborations.
I mean, I think the most important part of SUMO and this event of having, you know, openings at the same time and everything is the invited guests and introducing them to, you know, other people from the scene and creating these bonds. I mean, that was the whole impetus. I mean, initially, as I said, it was more, the idea came out of these private galleries in other countries doing it, and most of their guests were collectors. So, but because we incorporated these off-space and non-profit spaces, and there weren't so many private galleries, guests were curators, or, you know, and I mean, also some collectors. So, and I think what I liked about the idea of doing this was, I mean, I'm not saying it's a huge group of people we invite, but it's actually, you get a lot more from a small group that you spend a few days with, not just one event, not one opening, one dinner, but, you know, they're here for 3 days or whatever. Not that that's happening this year so much, but in the past years, they would be here for a whole, like, long weekend, and you'd have, you know, you'd go to exhibitions together, you'd go to dinner and lunch and tons of things, you know, various presentations, tours together. And that's when things happen, is when you can spend not just a couple of hours, but quite an extended period of time, and, you know, over and over again over a course of a few days, and then you have the better discussions and and you can develop something. It's not just a quick Zoom meeting or a quick, lunch. And so I think that, and in the past years, I mean, there have been some good things came out of that dynamic of the sort of intense, even, you know, it's just whatever, 5 people, 10 people, but over the course of a few days, spending a lot of time together about art in different ways, and having good sit-down discussions, and so that's, I would say that's the main thing I like about these kind of events, and the main benefit of them.
Thanks so much. I think that was a great invitation for a coffee or for a snack over there at those funny little white tables. So I think let's all continue on the networking and talking and friendly level, so we can remove the openings. Tonight here at the National Gallery, tomorrow Tjasa and I and a group of amazing artists are opening a show in this pavilion in Park Stromovka called Gnomes with Saxophones, and there are plenty of other exhibitions, events and shows, so hopefully we can all continue with the discussion on a less formal in less formal settings. Thank you so much for your attention. Thanks so much to our guests for the participation. Thanks to our hosts, and wish you wonderful rest of the day.